post or to comment. Ihsan, you ready?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right.
Hello,
It's all on
everyone.
you.
Ty and Eric, how are you all?
Doing well. How you
We're blessed.
I'm good. Hello, America. Well, let's start with just Philly. Let's start with a part of the city. All right. Hello, Southwest Philadelphia.
What's up, West Philly?
doing, Philly? How you doing?
All right.
Rep a nice town as well. NT.
To all my people on here from Toronto, I know I'm speaking it into existence. You're here. I know you are. Welcome to the second episode of season number 2 of MBKCares Wellness Wednesday discussions. Tonight's discussion is going to be a little different than any of the other discussions. As many of you know, we started these conversations around men's health, and it began with ideas Brother Eric Marsh and I had at the beginning of the pandemic period. And we just wanted to talk about how it was impacting our lives, our quality of life, and how we can move forward with healthy choices. So out of that came these incredible discussions. So tonight's discussion, instead of the typical panel where we bring on other experts or people with different areas of expertise, we're going to have a discussion between Eric and I talking about My Brother's Keeper Cares, about the organization, about our work. I'm going to actually have you delve into some of the fathering circles. You didn't know that though. But we have a phenomenal moderator tonight. We're going to be joined by relationship therapist Tyrice McCoy. Eric, would you mind introducing yourself before Tyrice starts this panel for us?
Introduce myself?
Yes. Come on.
Eric Marsh Sr., board member, supporter of MBK Cares, the mission and all that it's about. Also co-founder of the Fathering Circle, fatherhood advocate and longtime father, and a black man just trying to get right.
Yes.
That's it.
Well,
Ty, will you please tell us, tell the listening audience, the viewers, a little bit about yourself, so we can get this conversation started.
Hey, family. My name is Tyrice McCoy. I'm a relationship therapist in Philadelphia. I'm a woman of God. I love life. And it's a blessing to be able to have a conversation with these two brothers that's doing work out here in this community and trying to help others to heal.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So I know that we got a chance to just briefly talk a little bit ahead of time about some of the questions that you came up with. There's only a few questions, but all of the questions that are going to be asked, Tyrice actually put together. So we don't know, we know a little bit about what's going to happen, but this is just going to be really an open, honest conversation between two black men with our sister moderating. And, you know, we're going to dig into some of the history, things about MBK Cares, things that brought us to this moment, to the work that we do, and what it means to be, you know, a black man in Philadelphia doing what we do to support one another. So let's get started.
So it's been a pleasure being a part of some of the Wellness Wednesday conversations. And I know when I saw MBK Cares on Instagram, I was like, oh my goodness, this organization looks like it really stands for some wonderful things that are in alignment with what I do. So Ihsan, can you tell the audience, tell us again about the origin of MBK Cares?
Oh, so it was birthed out of a painful experience when my younger brother, Tyrice Hines, he took his life August 31st, 2007. And but the healing process of losing my brother caused me to go down a path of my own depression, but also it caused me to be brought into certain circles where people wanted me to speak about my experience. So I found myself on panels at different mental health conferences, and I had opportunities to come out as a keynote speaker at some different suicide conferences, particularly in Wilmington, Delaware. And I found a common theme when I went into different conferences where it was like reliving a funeral. And I didn't like that experience. And someone was training me to be a life therapist, I forget the exact term, but life coach. And they were trying to teach me how to stop other people from making fatal choices when it came to suicidal thoughts. And I said, I want something different. And I realized, like, over time, God started lining up things that I was doing in ministry were things that were going to actually be done with suicide prevention. And it meant getting systemically to the root of things. So it became more about systemically encouraging people and trying to build up people's hope and faith instead of just talking about the statistics of suicide and trying to understand suicide, trying to actually get at the root and cut off the reasons why people take their lives. So that's where it came from. It came from a need I had while I was going out and doing these conferences. I had grief and I didn't see what I needed in order to leave these places feeling better than I walked in.
And that's amazing how much life comes out of very difficult experiences and the loss of your brother, and how so many people, unfortunately, because of what happened with your brother, because of what you took, the grief, and you grew organization that helps many people out of it. And that's how God works all things together for the good, even the hardest things. So can you tell us about the mission of the organization, Eric? Because you're a part of MBK Cares. What's the mission of the organization?
The mission of the organization is really focused on the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical health and wellness of specifically African American men, but the African American community in general, in a way that, focusing its attention on suicide prevention, bullying and violence prevention. And we do that through the use of our monthly social gatherings, as Ihsan mentioned. That's kind of what led to the work that we're doing here on the Wellness Wednesday, but it's our monthly gatherings, art therapy. So we also use art, spoken word, performance, and several other means of expression to not only heal from the trauma and the loss of life that it experiences, but also to prevent and to manage stress and trauma in people's lives. So it's something I'm really proud of. I'm just really, really admirable of everything that Ihsan has built. And I'm really fortunate to be a part of the organization.
Yeah. When you were saying that, I remembered that, wait a minute. So Eric, do you do spoken word or poetry? I remembered that. I had a flash of like you standing up. Yeah, I remembered. A little aside. Are you still doing it?
I do not. I can, but I really don't. So I perform spoken word, and actually, this actually is funny. This is a little bit of a tangent, but it's directly related to what we're talking about. And that I had a writing partner many years ago. Her name was Shawnessa Jones. Her poetry stage name was Philly Butterfly, and we actually used to write together. And so she passed away suddenly, and that was kind of like I stopped writing after her death, but then also what got me through not only her passing, but also other like very difficult times in my life was writing and eventually performing spoken word and poetry. So again, another outlet.
Yeah, I'm going to be coming to that as one of the questions, but I just remembered. I was like, I remember when Eric was doing poetry. So, I kind of along the lines of where we've gone already, just a question for both of you. How have your experiences brought you both to doing the work that you do today? I mean, we talked about the MBK Cares work, but just some other experiences that brought you here.
Eric, you want to tackle that one?
Yeah, I'll go because similar to, so what brought me here, again, one of the pieces that I mentioned was the passing of my friend Shawnessa. Another one was about 3 or 4 years ago in Philadelphia, we had a rash of one particular school year where there were, I think, 3 or 4 children who had committed suicide during the same school year. And they were all various ages, some elementary, some junior high, but it was the shock of the question, the shock of the experience, and the question that came about was, what is happening to our young people that would lead them to this. And so, honestly, I actually had two friends of mine, Sedaria Brown and Boogie Rose, reached out to me because Sedaria had come up with the idea to form an organization called the No Bullying Coalition. And so the three of us, along with some other folks, got together and had a brainstorming session and developed this coalition of organizations and individuals across the city to try to bring about some healing and some alternatives for young people who were contemplating and considering suicide. So the No Bullying Coalition is actually the work that I was doing. Somehow, the No Bullying Coalition was brought to the attention of MBKCares, and that's how we connected. So,
can I spin off of that last part you just said? Because it was actually one of the other board members of MBKCares, Lamar Dixon, when he realized like there was a child in our neighborhood. There's small parts I'm forgetting. Alana, she's also on our board. We had a meeting at the library in April of 2019, last year. And after the meeting at the library, there was a woman who stood up and said, we need to make sure we're focusing on the young people. So we wake up the next morning after doing our monthly meetings, and Alana texts me an email, she texts me an article about a kid in our neighborhood who took their lives by the name of Philip Spruwell. So we found out the story or the narrative around his death was bullying. And Lamar Dixon, who was our other board member, he told me about your organization. And then I reached out thinking I was getting in touch with the woman you just mentioned. And I wound up getting a call from you on Easter Sunday of last year. And that call just changed everything. If you remember, like that call, we called to talk about one thing. And it was just, I was actually in a very depressed place. And I started talking to you about things, and you and I connected real well. And you were able to talk about your experiences in a way that had nothing to do with the work that we're doing now, but it just formed a brotherhood. You remember that conversation, Eric?
I do remember some of it. I can't remember all of it, but I do remember the phone call. I do remember having that conversation. And I do remember the fact that, what I think, that we don't give enough credit for is just the ability of two Black men who don't know each other, being able to be transparent and just have a conversation and just be honest about their feelings, and also on a mission to do something, right? We hear a lot about brothers connecting and wanting to do A, B, and C or X, Y, and Z, but just the ability to, to be able to be transparent. And that's why I appreciate the fact that you were able to share your feelings and your thoughts, and that we could really vibe on like a sincere, legitimate level.
Brotherhood
Yeah,
came out of that. What were you saying?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's like this is lovely. So y'all all in the space, talking about brotherhood, just being authentic and sharing, bearing your heart, choosing to actually share and say where you are. So Eric, you shared your story. Ihsan, you didn't say like, this is what I'm going through right now, kind of just very kind of raw in your emotions, but Eric was able to speak to something that provided some sort of soothing and a comfort. I mean, now, is it your experience? Because I'm definitely not a Black man. My hair may be a little short. I'm not a Black man. How easy is it for Black men to build brotherhood and bonds with men that they're just meeting?
Wow. Well, I can't speak for all Black men, but I will say that based on the work that I've done historically with several organizations, but more specifically the work that we do with the Fathering Circle, which is an organization that I co-founded, we really look at how men are socialized. Mm-hmm. And sadly, the way that we, particularly Black men, are socialized, we're socialized to not open up. We're socialized to not trust one another. We're socialized to see one another as competition or as a threat, or at its best, just to kind of like mildly neutral, right? And just to kind of like give a head nod, as we're passing down the street. But we're not taught to be open and vulnerable, because we're taught that once you show that vulnerability, then it can be used against you, right? It can be looked at as a target. So it takes a lot for Black men to open up. It takes a lot for us to be able to drop our guard, especially to somebody that we don't know and never met before, and maybe just having a first time conversation with. So that's why I say, I mean, kudos to Ihsan for being able to step into that space, and actually not step into, like, live in that space. This is authentic. This is Ihsan every day. So, I mean, just being around him is like, I had no choice but to consider him my brother from the very beginning, and to be able to just to stay connected.
Love you, man.
Love you too, bro. Go ahead.
That part, the welcoming on the other end matters a lot though too, because if you're throwing out, like, when we're sharing our emotions or our experiences, like, I think when I first talked to you, I was talking to you about a breakup, and I was talking to you about, like, depressed thoughts. While being a person in the community that was leading, I was actually telling you, like, yo, I'm weak, right? And that's a vulnerable place to be, to tell somebody that you don't know, I'm weak. And for you to actually embrace that and say, you know what, well, I'm going to stand here with you. Like, you did that without those words. You just did it with action. And the way you did it was by telling me about your own weaknesses. And, like, that, or shortcomings, or times when things didn't work out in your life, right? To let me know that you can make it through this, when it felt like this one day is like the last day of my life or the worst day. You let me know, like, I went through some bad years, you know what I'm, and then that let me know, well, dang, it's only been 1 year for me. Like, I think I can make it. And that's what my brother's keeper is about. That's really what life is about. That's what our relationship with family, that's just what God put us here to be. And some of these roots of where those barriers and walls come up from, they come up from a level of, like, sin showing up in a way of, like, shame. But when you can come and say, like, I'm naked before you, not on some sweet tip, but like, yo, I'm naked before you, like, this is my vulnerability, this is my shortcomings. Like, when you can do that, first of all, to yourself, when you look in the mirror and say, I am me and I'm okay with me, and to God, I am me, I'm broken, this is me, and to your friends and everybody else, there's a level of acceptance that comes with that all of us need and all of us deserve, and that saves lives. I'm confident that that saves lives, because it lets you know that all my pieces matter. It lets you know that I'm made for significance. It makes me know that I belong. And that's what you provided for me. And that's actually what all of our community work does. With you, with the Father in Circle, with the no bullying, like, even with Ty doing the relationship therapy, all of us are trying to promote working together with a community of self, and then also the community that we actually had surrounding us. So, man, this is not just about our personal relationship, but I am grateful for it because it allows us to move differently.
And I think one of the big pieces that what you're speaking to is, and this goes back to what I was saying, Ty, about male socialization, and I think American society in general, is that really we need to redevelop and inspire this idea of selflessness in our community. Like, be able to step outside yourself. It's not just about yourself, no matter how bad your situation is. Like, it's not even about that somebody else's situation could be worse. It's really about, no matter how bad your situation is, helping others will make your situation better, right? Like, being able to rebuild community one person at a time. Like, how many people, it breaks my heart to know how many young people I hear just saying, savage life. They just, like, out for self. Nobody cares about me. And the reality is that that's what happens in situations and in times when people lack, you know what I mean? When there's a lack of love, a lack of resources, a lack of money, people feel like, but that lack doesn't prevent you from being human and humane to another person. And those are the ways you could get through stuff, by being connected to others. So, yeah.
Unfortunately, when there is a significant amount of lack, a person can go into a perpetual space of survival. And so it can get in the way of connecting with others. And that's the hard part. Now, what breaks in on that cycle is to experience someone genuinely seeing you. Ihsan said, we're made for significance. Someone genuinely seeing you, speaking life into your life and showing you it is actually possible and that your actual needs are met. Sometimes the needs are met, that comes first, right? Needs got to get met first before a person can actually go into a space of receiving. But a lot of times that need that needs to be met is like the need of love, of someone actually seeing you, speaking into you, saying, you know what, I got time. Let me sit here and let me just be present with you. You ain't paying me, or I ain't paying you. I'll give you nothing. Like, we're here and we're experiencing life together. And I'm a bear witness to what you're going through. So now I didn't kind of got off on a little tangent, but
No, it's good. It's good.
yeah,
Because that's what this is about. Like, that's honestly, like, we talk about, like, being relaxed and having this conversation, and like we're sitting around having this conversation. But that's the reality, is like, that's where we need to go with this, because I think, you know what, I would love at some point in time if we could have some young people involved in this conversation, like to do, the same conversation, the same group, but with young people, because I think I see it out in the streets. I see it in the community where people just feel, completely disconnected. So because nobody is having these real, like, vulnerable, transparent conversations.
and so I would actually beg to differ. A lot of people are having the conversations, but they're having them in silos. And now that we have so much access to each other. I just want to make sure can y'all hear me clearly?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, good. Now that we have so much access to each other. So earlier, Ihsan said, he's speaking into existence. Hello, folks in Canada. But I've shared this, and some of the youth that I work with in South Africa, they're tuning in. The people, so it's people, when we are connected to the global community, they're tuning in. And so these conversations, they're being had in living rooms, on telephones, they're being had, but people need to hear them, because modeling matters. We hear representation matters, right? This conversation, some brothers talking and allowing a sister in, but her actually giving space for the men to share while, being an active part, that's community, right?
Absolutely.
Modeling is the very thing that children use to grow up to become whoever they will become. And we still, as adults, we will watch someone and we will learn about something in life, and because someone's modeling for us. And even us having this conversation, it's a type of modeling for some people. It's like, can I really talk to my brothers like that? Can I say I love you, man, to my friend? And with just let it be. Put it out there. I don't have to trail off with it, put it in my pocket, but actually say, I love you, man. Or I love you, sis.
Ty, one of the things you talked about, like giving space, I admire when sisters are a part of the conversation and from creating things that Black men can benefit from. It's one of the things I really love about Black Men Hill. I admire how the organization, I believe it was started by 2 women, and it actually is called Black Men Hill. Like, that's phenomenal to me that they had a heart for that, and they still have it in such a way where there are Black men who are facilitating the everyday things of the organization, or representing it, like Reginald Howard. But it's just such an incredible organization, and just the way community should look, because we're not in competition. We really need each other. Like, your experience and mine, they're different, but they're the same. Like, I find myself in conversations where comparative suffering happens a lot, where people are comparing, like, well, to be a woman is this, to be a man is this. We all suffering. Like, and for real, like, when we realize we all have some mess or a struggle to get through, we can have compassion on one another when we had those struggles. And that's what I love about all of this stuff. And I really like how Eric talked about the young people. Like, if there's one thing that I can address, or I have to address, you asked us about, like, men being in certain spaces to communicate. I hit a wall that freed me. And it's like I hit a wall and broke through it when I was like maybe 25 years old, where I didn't care anymore about what people thought about me. Now, mind you, therapy is showing me I still care to some level, But there was this point where I just was like, you know what? In my past, I have smoked weed. I have drank. I have gambled. I have done all these things that I keep a secret from family, from friends, from all these people. And I realized when I got to that point, it was when I got a relationship with God. But I also realized, like, I can't hide who I am. I can't just be the person who was celebrated for achievement. I was valedictorian. I was in charge of all these programs. I was a celebrated man, but I want to form my identity and being celebrated rather than this is me underneath and I can't show y'all this. When I hit that wall and it's like, let me break through it, there was freedom in that. So I encourage every man out there to hit that wall. If you see it, run through that, John. Like, run through it, because on the other side of it is just you. And everyone in the world has to accept you for that. But it happens when you accept you for that. And a big part of you accepting you for that is when you realize that God accepts you regardless of what you bring to the table.
Wow.
The wall, man, the wall. I mean, so you said you hit the wall and you ran through it. How did you run through the wall? What did you do?
God did it. Like, I know last week we wound up having a conversation that kind of went churchy, or not churchy. God did what he was supposed to do. I hit a moment where I felt the Lord calling me to salvation, right? And with that, it became this moment of like crying out and saying, I've done all these things, right? Realizing I've hurt people, realizing by like selling weed, I was actually providing negative things for people to lean on, or gambling, I might have been breaking somebody's situation by taking their money, or destroying my own by losing money. Breaking hearts of women. Like, I was in a lot of relationships. But realizing that God saw all that and allowed me to finally see it, like, I've done all this. I've done all this. Not just a way of like condemnation, but you love me even though I've done this. The wall disappeared. It wasn't even just really, I said breakthrough. The breakthrough was just realizing that God is there to tear it down for you. I just started recognizing the wall that I was actually holding up. We hold up we all hold up walls, all of us. Like in the garden, they called them fig leaves, right? They were covering themselves with leaves to try and cover up their shame. I built a wall around me, and that wall was a man who's getting A's, or a man who's busy. And it still shows up with community work at times. That's why I got to check myself and make sure I'm still not looking for identity in what I do. But it's easy to get caught up in that.
But I want to add to that, right? Because you keep saying, and I know it feels this way to be true, right? But you keep saying, I built this wall, I built this wall. But I think it's important for us to recognize society gives us the bricks to build those walls, right? It's society throws all of this stuff on you that tells you you're not a man unless you get A, B, and C, unless you acquire X, Y, and Z. You know, I realized that. So it's in a similar, like, I've had multiple experiences that are similar to this wall. And I think one of the biggest ones was for me was when my business, I had to shut down my business that I operated for 10 years. I felt like a failure because my business was just going hard. Like, all of a sudden, just the last year was just a horrible experience, and things weren't working out right. My marriage was falling apart. And, you know, this whole idea of a man is only, you know, a man identifies based on his net worth, right? What can you do? We all introduce ourselves, but like, yeah, you know, other than your name, a lot of times when men have conversations, like, what kind of work you do, right? We identify ourselves by these external things. And so similar to Ihsan's wall, it was me losing everything. My something that I had built over the years, my marriage at one particular time, you know, my earning potential where I was flat broke, right? All of these things are things that society tells us adds value to ourselves. And it's not until you get stripped away from all of that stuff that you realize it's like, no, I can build value. I'm worthy just because I'm here, just because God made me this way, just because I'm born. And I think we need to really get people back to that understanding of self-worth. And then we can kind of, you know, build on that. But I just wanted to help, I just wanted to share this concept, right? Because to Ihsan, because I think a lot of us have this idea that we do this thing to ourselves. And it's not true. Like, we play a part in it, absolutely. but there's also social conditioning. There's also expectations. There's also family and friends and society and media that always like puts this pressure on us that we have to figure out how to undo.
Trauma. A lot of trauma, a lot of pain. You talk about like allowing it to hit us. We perpetuate it, so we can wind up being hurt people that hurt people if we don't recognize it. You're a little bit older than me, but one thing I was talking about a wall for 25, right? The thing I've been realizing like over time is that these walls, they actually represent more like a wall within one room of a mansion. Our lives are like very, very complex. And with therapy and time, like God is a wonderful counselor, first of all. So that therapy alone is phenomenal. But then over time, you start realizing there's this enlightening. I started studying some psychology, and they were talking about how like when you start going through therapy, it's like a candle got lit inside of a room, and you realize like, dang, I didn't know all this was here, all this wonderful stuff that's in your mind. So as these walls come down, there's a wall that has to do with childhood. Then there's walls from like maybe falling off your bike when you were a kid. There's all kinds of walls that reinforce fears from certain things. And those things all come together and they work in concert to try to cause us to have the wrong identity. And that's where my passion has come from with MBK Cares, with life, with like just being a believer, is to help people see their true identity. And what I realized, like that happens best when you see your own identity, because then you're not telling somebody something you rehearsed, you're telling somebody something you live and it's your true conviction. And that way, no matter, even if you're witnessing about who God is, nobody can tell you if what you're saying is wrong if you know him for yourself. And the same thing, if you know what healing is like, nobody can tell you it doesn't work, because you're like, I'm experiencing this healing. I'm experiencing seeing what therapy is like. I'm experiencing seeing what even heartache can do. Heartache has a benefit. Like there's a benefit of being broken down and having everything demolished so that you can build up and realize the foundation of that was not secure, it was not stable anyway. There's just so many beautiful things, man. There's so many beautiful levels to this thing. It's one wall, one room. I'm gonna get another wall in 10 years. Or I'm gonna realize that there's a wall I didn't even realize was there now. That's strong right now. It has to be broken down, but it may not be until I'm a certain age. It may not be till my children are a certain age. It may not be till there's just a level of brokenness from another experience, whether that be a positive or a negative experience. Sometimes we confront it with love and it challenges us to move in a different way. Sometimes we challenge with hate, we move differently. And
Eric, you sitting over there thinking look like Malcolm X. I'm like, just, you know, and because what y'all are dropping some heavy stuff, and I'm thinking about the different walls that we build up, like you said, Eric, the bricks that society gives us that we choose to. But what's the mortar that's holding it all together? What keeps this stuff sticky and strong?
Wow. Our need for acceptance, our need to belong, right? The need that we have for the connection to others is the mortar that allows us to put together all these unhealthy things that then creates this wall that actually separates us. Ain't that ironic?
Yep.
Like that is crazy, but that's really the truth. Like you as human beings deep down, like that's one of our foundational needs. How, what's Maslow's hierarchy needs, like that's a foundational thing, next to breathing and eating and shelter. So understanding that we will do anything for loved ones and for the acceptance of loved ones. And because of that, we will often make bad decisions. Like we will go down the wrong path for ourselves on a spiritual level, like a spiritual emotion, like the emotional thing will have us running off in a direction, chasing behind somebody because we want to be accepted and want to be loved. And that's one of the reasons why, like, I don't at any point in time profess to be, particularly, religious, but that's one of the things about the love of God is that is that love that we're all looking for. But when we start looking at other people, it can lead us down the wrong direction because that's inherent in us. It's something that God put there. but we replace it with these other things, right? And then we start sticking these bricks together to try to make things work, because this is a picture that society tells us this is the ideal life. Here, you can build your own mansion, but in reality, you're building walls, but it's not to a mansion. It's actually to a prison. So we trap ourselves in these concepts, right, and these ideas that that don't really speak to our spirit, like who we are significantly. I just was telling Todd this earlier. You know, I just recently left a position working in city hall, right? Working in that, when I first got it, you know, people were like, oh my God, it's great. You're gonna make so much money. You got this government job, you got benefits, you got this, that, and the other. But what I found out, that it was not good for my soul. It wasn't good for my spirit. It didn't speak to who I am as a human being, as a person. And so because of that, you know, had I listened to everyone else and had I fed into that need for acceptance and approval, that mortar, I would have used all of that mortar to put these bricks together about status, income, all these other things that society tells us that we should be striving for. And I was complicit in the process of building my own wall that would have kept me trapped. And so, yes, that's the mortar for me. That's my idea, what my understanding of what the mortar is. I don't know about Ihsan, you gotta throw something in there.
You defined it perfectly, and that plays into the mortar of addiction. I remember when I had a really bad gambling habit, right? And I remember telling my therapist, like, I don't even know why I'm doing this. Like, I'm playing poker, and I started realizing, like, there was a racial reason, but also there was an acceptance reason at the poker table, or just in any environment. Like, we look at the economy of this country right now, we realize, like, a lot of the money is in white American hands, right? And in the casino, the opportunity to make money is the lie that you're told. I can leave here wealthy. You may, but you're more likely to leave broker than you walked in, right? But the poker table, when I sat down at poker tables, I realized, like, the playing field felt even, because everybody could only buy into a certain limit of what they had. So I used to take pleasure in trying to knock other people off the table. I was skilled enough to do it, but I didn't have the means to actually last, right? And I'm not saying this to promote gambling at all. I'm just saying what I started realizing was going on. I started getting caught up in wanting to be acknowledged as intelligent amongst these white men at the table, right? But then also, like I can outsmart them, because they would beat you and feel like you dumb. I felt like they were saying, you dumb black man. That's what it felt like. But I knew a lot more things than they knew. I just couldn't outlast them financially, right? But I started realizing that was part of the acceptance you're talking about, like these feelings of I need to be accepted. But an addiction is the same thing, whether it's gambling addiction, whether it's drug addiction, alcohol. There's rejection that you feel that causes people to lean on addiction. And then they go to places where they're accepted. That's why you see a lot of people who are drug addicts hanging with other drug addicts, alcoholics sitting at the same bar, addicts all at the same casino. And that's putting you in a place of community, but that community is not actually leading you out of that community. It's leading you further and further down these wormholes. Those are the reasons why, trying to bring it back to even like the organization, these are the systemic things I'm trying to get at. Like, realizing, like, you don't just stop suicide by telling people don't kill yourself. No, you got to hit what happened to you that has you feeling hopeless right now. For me, it was losing a relationship. For me, it was losing thousands of dollars. Like, for me, it was like feeling like the world that I knew that I could stand on was falling apart. So what you point out with the acceptance part, that is the glue that holds it together. And what we have to do, or what is imperative for everyone, not just us to have to do, because each person has to get it for themselves, is to replace that glue with the love of God, and then with healthy relationships. And those healthy relationships look different. They look way different. Like Eric, like, some things are divine. Like, I didn't know we were going to know one another. And that's an uncomfortable feeling sometimes, when you start realizing, like, people who are meant to be in your life may not even exist yet. I didn't know I was going to meet Eric in 2019, and Eric is a significant part of my life, my organization, or our organization, the work we do in the community. When you're open to understanding that God moves and splits pieces. This morning, I got to share this concept, and I'm going to pass this off. This morning, I started picturing a tree, right? And I started picturing how relationships in my life have gone in different directions, but I realized like the only reason why I'm going in different directions is we all grown. And I picture a tree, as the tree is starting to grow up from a seed, is going straight up. But then after a while, the branches start going out. We're still connected, but we're over here. Your branch might be doing things over here. My branch may be over here, but we still started off together and we're still just growing. So sometimes growing up makes you grow out. And realizing that is a beautiful thing, because then you actually start winding up next to other trees. Eric's another tree, or you're on another tree. And that tree includes your sister. It includes your organization, the Father in Circle. For Ty, we're connected now, and your organization, I don't even know the roots of it, but our journeys have connected us in a certain way. Every single person out there has an opportunity to connect with other trees and to connect with other things that are just growing. And it may take you away from some people. It may bring some people full circle. One of the board members of MBKCares, I've known him since I was 14. We had a period of life where we weren't around each other for like 10 years, but that's still one of my best friends on this planet. And life has brought us full circle to being able to do community work together now. But accepting that, forgiving yourself for growing up. I remember in rap lyrics, Jay-Z says something like, people look at you strange, say you change, like you work that hard to stay the same. Like, seriously, if you're working hard to change, don't be mad at the things that change and take you away from each other. It's part of the process. And I don't say that in a disrespectful way to those who may be witnessing this and thinking that I don't care. I care about loss. I care about relationships. I care about people. But I also realize that we cannot carry every single person, every relationship. They change, they shift. The one that you have to maintain is one with you, the one with ourselves, because we only have one life to live. We have one life. That's
Yeah,
my
I think,
my spill.
and I just want to add to that too, like, because something that you just said about the work, right? The work is about getting people to understand that change is normal and natural. And even this whole idea of like, even with death being at the center of the work that we do, is really to also like to balance that out. You know what I mean? Like to balance that out. We're not all about just we want people to understand that change is part of life. And so one, understanding change as part of life, then you understand that saying, that phrase they use in relation to suicide, that it's a permanent solution to a temporary problem, right? So if you understand that change is part of life, then you understand that all problems are temporary. And if you do choose suicide, and it makes me think about the issue that we're dealing with now in relation to gun violence. Like these folks out here slinging and just shooting indiscriminately. This is a permanent end to a temporary solution. Like whatever the beef is, whatever the problem is, like it's not something that's going to last always. And I feel like that the work that we do with all of our organizations is really trying to get people to understand that piece about life. Like sometimes it's going to be difficult, sometimes it's going to be challenged, but you know what? It's going to change. It's going to be different. It's going to be different tomorrow. There is a way to work through this, and as part of community, we can do that. I hear people always talk about like I hear a lot of pushback about this idea of the Black community, right? That if we really had a community, we wouldn't be in this situation because the community works together. But my feeling is that we create community, right? Ihsan and I created community between us. Ty, we've created community between us. And Philly is so small, like you gotta recognize this. Ty, you and I have encountered each other like years ago, right? And in totally different lives. Like we were both doing totally different things when we first met, right? But look at us now. Look at how we've come back together, right? And this is a community that I'm talking about. So we really do have to just come together, and I think we really just, man, I don't know. It's just, I just feel it. Like I can't even put it into words, but it's just, in a way, it's almost like common sense. But go ahead.
Look, Zoom kicked me out for a second, and I'm back. Now, when you were talking about how we met each other, because it was years ago when was a while. It was a long time ago. I was walking around in
Yeah.
Timberlands when I met you. 'Cause, you know, my previous career,
Yes.
construction. So, you know, I was about to shake that off real quick, but everything that we've experienced, everything that we have done, all of the different places we have gone, it all will be used in our lives as we move forward. Like I was just like, yeah, I used to do construction. I could like throw it out. But no, I
Mhm.
was a project engineer, assistant project engineer doing construction management out here, uh, managing building of projects and contracts and all kinds of different things. I will use that when I go and build in other countries. I
Yes.
use that mindset. I use the engineering mindset that I have when I'm working with families in therapy. I use it to solve regular everyday problems. Like how do I get my hair to be where it needs to be? The mindset of solving problems. So, you know, a lot of times we think about our post-wall time where we are right now. The walls have crashed down and we're moving in our overflow and our space of healing and our process of healing. But what from your pre-wall years are you using in your post-wall present?
Ihsan, you got that. You brought up the whole wall thing. I'm gonna give that one to you.
Um, leadership that I
Hmm.
learned, like certain ways to like lead projects, even lead and like hustle. Like a lot of times we hear about like drug dealers, actually some of the best businessmen, they learn certain things. I learned to not give up. Like when I was a street rapper, I worked really, really hard. When I played basketball, like I really worked hard and I had the confidence. This morning, this was hitting me. It's really interesting you bringing this up. But this morning, I was thinking how my confidence level from pre-wall was really high. It actually went down in some ways when I got into the life of the church because I started listening to the judgment of other people and got caught up in false humility and all kinds of other expectations on my life. But the confidence that I had from pre-wall in the tenacity to like go at something and the desire
Hmm.
to see it done, even if I got to do all the work myself, that's what I got pre-wall. Like to not care. Lamar is on here. He'll tell you like I didn't care about how I dressed. I didn't care about a lot of things. I was very practical, and those things are pre-wall, or we're calling it pre-wall, but those are things that I learned. I also learned loyalty. Like I have friends that other people may judge, but they're my friends, right? Even though I got saved, some of my friends didn't get saved. I still love them because they still are my friends and they still are who they are. And if something happened to me, I know they have my back. So I learned a certain level of loyalty. I learned when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And I really got to see like some of the people that I've known, and then some of the things that you said that are there, they're not all bad. They really aren't. Like some things religion can make you think, not even God is not making you think it. Organized circles will make you think that you can't bring that here. But what I've learned, and this is something I'll bring up, I guess, with even with ministry, I found comfort in saying what I was going through, even when it was not what everybody else was doing. I'm known by the name Purpose doing Christian rap. And I used to go on the scene at different cafes and different concerts, and I would talk about struggle, and nobody else was talking like that. So I'll be talking like I like this girl, or I got a baby on the way, like all kinds of things that people weren't talking about. And I used to feel out of place, but God always comforted me in it and gave me more insight, more wisdom from his word, and more comfort when it was broken, and more lyrics he would inspire, or more opportunities or doors he would open up. And I started realizing what I had, all of our broken pieces matter. That's what you just were saying, Ty. Like the broken pieces matter. Like they really do. They really, really do. Like if I didn't have my mental break, my break October 16th, 2018, when I felt like taking my life, if I didn't have that, I wouldn't have the tenacity that I have now to see that other people don't get there, or the desire to see other people not get there from the
Yeah.
bad things. The good thing didn't do it. Like me just saying, let's go out here and be good. That didn't do it. It was feeling bad. It was experiencing bad that created it. I really love some of the bad things that happened because they have been they turned out to be great because they built character. And that's all that we are. We're all being developed as people, as human beings. And those things build character, trials,
Yeah.
struggles. I'm sorry. Come on, my brother.
You ain't got to apologize. No, it's real. It's preaching. You preaching. You don't expect me to answer that question, do you? I don't know if I can
I
answer
sure
that.
do.
I don't know.
I sure do.
I really don't. I don't know. But pre-wall, what from your pre-wall life is I think, for me, what's important for me, I think, is that this concept that is fundamental to the work that we do in the Fathering Circle, and that is we are inherently good human beings. Like we are born absolutely perfect. And what happens is society puts things on us as from the time we are children all the way through, most of the time till we to the grave, right? And so the fact that I know that God don't make mistakes, right? That I know that my reason for being here is for good. And I know that, that we don't start off broken, right? So my pre-wall is that, like, where do we come from? Where do we start as human beings? And then understanding that a lot of our brokenness happens as we get older, right? As we age. And so for me, it's understanding that there is inherent goodness in us, and we have to get back to that. And the way you get back to that is understanding the things that have happened to you, right? There's this belief, not just a belief, it's a practice in restorative practices. And the concept of restorative practice, where you ask a child or you ask a person, not what's wrong with you, but you ask a person what happened to you, right? That's a two totally different concepts. When you ask somebody what's wrong with you, they have to acknowledge that there's something wrong to be able to answer that question, right? And there's a different, they have to believe or buy into or search themselves for some broken thing and then explain it to you. And that's oftentimes people can't get through that. But if you ask a person what happened to you, then they can think backwards and be like, think about when you see two kids fighting, or you see one child that's just acting up and acting out, right? Oftentimes, if you ask them what's wrong, they can't really explain it because you can't put all of those pieces, and like you don't understand how your body and your mind and your spirit and all this stuff is reacting to trauma and stress. But if you ask a person what happened, now we can walk backwards step by step through what happened. So I feel like my pre-wall gift is knowing that we're good inherently, and we have to start from that. And then whatever happened to us can be examined and then undone.
Eric, can I say something on that? Because that plays in mental health and in physical health. I'm not going to, you and I were having a talk earlier about like physical health, right? And it's one thing to say a diagnosis, but then you were talking about the happening. And then also by realizing the happening, you can reverse course. You know what I'm talking about? Like
Yeah.
you were talking about, like, one thing is a diagnosis, but if you learn like exercise can change this, or a diet can change this. So if somebody's having, for instance, like high blood pressure or diabetes or anything, you can now tell them, okay, what's wrong with you is you have this circumstance, but what happened to you is you ate a certain way, you didn't exercise a certain way. So we talk about what happened, we can work backwards and change the happening, and then change what's wrong with you to what's right with you. We can do corrective things. But if you don't recognize what happened, then you only just have a diagnosis, and that's it. And the diagnosis doesn't help you to work backwards. People are sick.
And yeah, and now think about that in relation to our society now, and how society responds to the things that we complain about, right? Oftentimes what society does, it will give us a medication to cover up the symptoms of what's wrong with us, right? when you think about a cold, or you think about a flu, you think about a headache, you think about all of these different things, society is telling us that no matter what's wrong with you, take this thing, add this thing to yourself to mask what's happening, like to mask the symptoms of the problem, as opposed to actually getting to the root and addressing the problem.
Eric, you
What?
going down. You didn't brought my soapbox to right in front of me, and I can't stand on it because I'm
Here you
moderator.
go. Here you go.
I can't go. Just gonna bring the soapbox.
Come on, throw it to
right there. Yeah, I'm gonna help you up on it too.
Like,
Here you go. Hold it.
keep the conversation going. But exactly what you're talking about is the tending to the systemic issues rather than covering over or trying to skirt over the symptoms. That's what many do in the medical. I'm trying my hardest not to go down the areas of the boxes of soap. Okay.
Okay.
I hear you.
What I will say.
You're the one with the questions, though, so I just want to let you know that. Like,
I'm about to go back to I'm going back to the questions because right now. So there's a few things that came up from the conversation that I wanted to talk about. Now you hit on building community. Right now you're talking about the systemic issues and addressing the actual systemic issues, right? So I want to go to something that we've been talking about. It's been like this undercurrent, even though we've gone to the hard places, and that's love. Both of you both of you decide to live love. You decide to walk it out, try to be it as much as possible. So what are some of the things that you can say to some of our people who are listening? I would say some of our Black men who are listening, but anybody who wants to try to live a life of love. What's some tips? Can you share some tips with me?
I'll give it to Ihsan.
So I don't like silencing people. I learned a long time ago when I was in like 3rd grade or 4th grade. One of my teachers told me I talk too much, right? And I might talk too much. I might, but I realized that we don't need to be told that we can't share or speak up or speak our truth, right? Love, allow people to speak, right? And listen to them. I think that one way we can love is listening. The Bible talks about being slow to speak, slow to anger, and quick to listen, right? Like slow to wrath, quick to listen. Am I messing it up? But it's listen. Just learn how to listen to people, because in listening, there's this thing called understanding, and when you understand, you start realizing the happening that Eric was talking about, like what happened, or how what I might have said or done connected to what happened to you. So you ever find yourself in an argument with somebody and y'all not even arguing about what you arguing about anymore? Like you spilled juice, but now you're talking about 3 years of something, because what happened was triggering something else that happened before, and you're not even dealing with the thing. So learn to listen, and if you listen, you start understanding, oh, what happened, or what happened has nothing to do with me. Because if you don't do that, you wind up speaking from places of pain instead of on behalf of places of pain. And I've learned that is necessary. When you yell, and I have a problem with it. I have a personality that's strong, and I don't like to be told that I'm wrong. I try to do right all the time. I don't like to be told that I failed. I don't like to fail. But what I've learned is to shut up a little bit and try to give things space. As difficult as it may be, I've learned to be quiet and leave things alone, because you can speak from places of pain and make matters worse. So one thing I would say to love is learn how to listen, learn how to speak on behalf of places of pain and not from them. And then also learn how to forgive people. And like if you can, like it's a choice, you know what I mean? It's not easy, but it is a choice, and it may require forgiving again tomorrow for something you forgave yesterday, because something might remind you of the pain that you've experienced. But choose to forgive. Like I really would say that, choose to forgive, because the person hurt from it really is you. It's us. I've been hurt more by unforgiveness that I've carried for other people than for what they did to me. People go on about their lives, and Yeah. Those are the mental barriers. Those are the things that have to be broken down, and love breaks those down.
Yeah.
Yeah, for me,
Eric?
I would say that love like doesn't try to change people.
Mhm.
Like don't try to change people. And when I say don't try to change people, that's a you know that covers an array of behaviors or expectations. Everything from I love this person so much, I'm going to help them or make them better, or what they're doing is so wrong that I got to show them how wrong they are, and so that with the hopes that they'll change, right? I think similar to what Ihsan was saying about listening, right? We can be present. We can be present and still we can be present and listen and be loving without an expectation of changing a person, right? Because when we start to have this idea of that wanting to change somebody, we become invested in them emotionally in a way that it connects our egos to it, right? So when your ego is connected to somebody changing and they don't cooperate, what happens? That's when we start arguing. It's like, I done told you a million times that you should have did, you know, what you should have did was, didn't I tell you, right? All of that is just, you don't love nobody when you're talking to them like that. That's your ego trying to be right. So yeah, I would just add that. And I know it's difficult. Like a lot of people don't get it. Like a lot of people don't understand, like, I'm trying to help. But are you really trying to help that person change? Or are you trying to reveal to that person how something they're doing is not in their best interest or not working for them? Because some people are living a lifestyle that's working for them.
Mhm.
And we want them to change for ourselves, but they might not be ready to change. And some people will be complaining about all the stuff that's happening in their life, but they're not ready to change. And so when we start expecting a change or trying to force a change, then that sets up a dynamic for conflict. Um, and I think that's just, you know, we just go down the wrong road. So for me, it's change.
That was
That's
great.
good. So we listening to folks, and we're not going to try to make them who we want them to be. We want to let them be great and where they are now, or where they're going. So with the relationship that the two of you have, I was going to go to one of the other questions, but but before we go any further, I would like Eric for you to talk a little bit about the fathering circle, if
Oh,
that's okay.
yeah, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. So real quick, I mean, the Fatherhood Circle is a organization that I'm co-founder of along with my partners, Billy and Les. We started the Fatherhood Circle about
Mm,
3.5 years ago as part of an art project actually called Philadelphia Assemble that was sponsored by the Philadelphia Museum of Art. And the purpose originally was to just gather stories from fathers about what their vision of a new form of fatherhood would look like, right? So Philadelphia Assemble was all about future envisioning, how to make Philadelphia better or what the future would look like. And so Jana Van Eswick, who was the lead artist, came up with the idea of fatherhood being a subject, fatherhood being a subject, right?
Sorry.
Yeah.
I've been holding in these laughs right when he saw I was talking about not silencing people.
I'm sitting there like my kids,
We talk
they
about
kicking each
fatherhood and
other, they
experiences.
doing all sorts of stuff in the background. It's just like, I try to be good. I'm like, yes, y'all can stay in the room. Yes, you can watch TV. And then they kicking each other, they doing all
Father and
types of
circle
stuff.
is around you right now, brother.
The
Father,
fathering circle is happening in my living room. But it's real, right? And so
Yeah.
understanding that parenting really it's the whole purpose of the fathering circle is to get men to examine their socialization. How were you socialized? Who told you what a father was going to be? What's the expectation on you? When did you learn to be a father? Most of us who are fathers didn't learn to be a father at all. It just happened, right? And we're learning on the job. So we don't even get prepared ahead of time to be fathers. So like I said, we're coming up on our 4th year. Really looking forward to, we've served over 200 men, nearly about 200 men over the past several years that we've been having in our circles. And I'm really looking forward to being able to expand on the work that we do in 2021. We've gotten a chance to do presentations at different conferences from here to New York, to Harrisburg. We've been part of the Men Can project through Lutheran Settlement House. We've partnered with different organizations. So really, again, it's really just about helping men step into that role of fatherhood with, and I have to say this, with the expectation that they will form better relationships with their partners and their children, right? So it's not just about men being better men. It's about how can you be better in relation to your partners and your children. Because oftentimes what happens when we talk about that brokenness, right? We talk about those bricks that society gives us. Oftentimes what happens is that it's a trickle down effect, right? And so all the oppression, all the stress and the trauma that happens to us as men, to other men in this society, or from other men in this society, often translates to impacting our partners and our children. And so we want to be able to stop that process. And again, look at what does it mean? How do you heal? And how do you become a better parent, co-partner, husband, wife, whatever the title you want to use? How do you become better at that and create what we call a better egalitarian parenting? So create a more healthy balance.
Brother, that was a great word, great message, but that word you used at the end was phenomenal. I've never heard that used in a sentence.
Egalitarian?
Yes. Sesame Street is brought to you today by the word egalitarian.
Reading is fundamental. No, you know, like, what can I say?
Word.
Yes, I like multi-syllabic words. Yeah, baby.
Yes, multi-syllabic phrase. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing about the phenomenal work that Fathering Circle is doing. Working with families, working with people in general. One of the things that I've found that is tantamount to the healing of a person, and that is the healing of any father wound and the connection with a healthy fathering relationship if possible, where possible, wherever possible.
Yes.
There's something about identity that comes from the connection of a father in the life of their children. Even when the dad's snapping, like, stop, want this Zoom, you gotta stop playing games over there. But even to bring what's happening in vivo right now in life, right? I don't know if they're still in the room yet. Then got banished to another space.
Oh, they're good.
But you have your children there with you. It would be awesome. Like they are watching their dad living their lives as a kid, but they're watching their father have a conversation that they know is meaningful to him. And most likely, if it's meaningful to dad, it's meaningful to other people. And when the both of you continue to do your work, your children are seeing this. With the little bit of time that we have, right? It's bringing up the subject of legacy. Ihsan. Hi. Oh, the beauty.
No. His legacy.
Yes, legacy. Who you was kicking? You was kicking somebody.
She was stomping on her brother who was laying on the floor. That's what he was. So anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Please don't. It was a whole thing. All three of us was involved. I was guilty too, so don't like.
Oh, good. That's okay. So I don't know if my mom watching or not. Like I'm old. There's a statute, no statute of limitations. I don't know. I was in Baltimore. My mom was a brown belt, and we were sparring because she was like studying and stuff. My mom has a different frame than I do. She's a little more slender than I am, a little taller, slightly taller. That woman flipped me over the table with her brown belt. She said, flipped me right over the table. I'll never forget that. It wasn't discipline. It was literally like we were sparring. It was for the martial arts that, you know, we were both learning at the time. I'll never forget that, because she walks around in heels and she's very like graceful. But I was like, she'll flip you over the table in a second. I don't know. I just wanted to share that. You were talking about, you know, throwing bowls with your kids. So as a therapist, I look the other way for the moment. And I just wanted to share a little random funny story. I don't know, it might not be funny, but Mom, I'm telling you business out here in these streets. But legacy, Ihsan, what is the legacy that you desire for MBK Cares to either leave or to continue to perpetuate?
Of hope and healing. People, I actually want to create a model. Hopefully we can create with this platform we have in Philadelphia, a model that can be done in different cities. One that gets beyond just the memory of my brother, because my brother's Keeper Cares is the name of the organization, but it's deeper than just me thinking about my own brother. It's about caring for our brothers in the community. So MBK, we care. That's the thing we want. We want people to know that our legacy is going to be about care, that some of the things that we learn on the job, hopefully other people can learn from our model and not have to learn as much on the job. You were talking about fatherhood. I had to learn a lot of things about fatherhood from a mother. You can't learn everything from a mother for fatherhood. So I hope that people get to see the healing that we've gone through with our own mental health and our own experiences, and actually see those as things that they want to carry on. I hope that other people live instead of taking their lives, and not just to suicide, letting go of addictions that are slow versions of suicide, whether it be drugs, alcohol, gambling, anything that impacts your quality of life. The legacy we want to leave is a higher quality of life. And I believe that lines up with the mission of God. If I can get you to stay alive another day, you get another opportunity to have your soul saved. So he wants you to live long.
Yeah, I want to add to that piece about addiction too, because I wish I could remember this, but I know that there's a surah in the Quran that talks about using substances. I think they specifically talk about wine, but it talks about like numbing your senses, right? And so I really think it's important for us to share this idea that there's a lot of people who are out here, especially with living in a world with legal marijuana, medical marijuana, all of this stuff. Like, people are numbing themselves, not necessarily to the extent where they are addicted to a thing, or maybe they don't even realize or associate themselves with the word addiction, but people are numbing themselves to escape and to avoid pain, trauma, conflict, difficult conversations, difficult situations. And I think it's important to add that piece to the discussion, where we recognize that, you know, just being able to recognize the fact that there's more to us as human beings. Like, we have to feel those feelings and sense all the things that we're talking about if we really want to address them. And I see more and more people at a younger and younger ages just numbing themselves to try to escape reality rather than actually changing reality or affecting reality. So I just wanted to add that.
No, I was going to come to you, Eric, so you's next, because you're a very important part of MBK Cares. So I wanted to know what your hopes were for the legacy of MBK Cares as well. But yeah, what you brought up, Eric, about numbing and is self-medication, self-soothing. It's a way that people have used to find out, to figure out how to navigate these difficult emotions, these hard feelings. Because if I do sit and feel, who's going to be here when I fall apart?
Yeah.
I don't even know what's going to happen when I release all of this stuff because it's been here my whole life.
Yeah.
And that's why we need more and more and more safe spaces for people to be able to sit with their emotions, to sit with their feelings, their questions, and for others to be able to bear witness, for there to be healing and connection. And it sounds like that's what MBK Care does. That's what the Fathering Circle does as well. And the building of community that both of you do has an exponential effect on lives. When you can help one person to feel safe, secure, hopeful, and that they can take the steps necessary towards their healing, they carry that to we don't know how many people in their lives. Just seeing your coworker that never smiles somehow smiling and don't feel the weight when he walks in anymore, you want to know what's going on. Y'all may have a conversation at lunch, or you may just figure people can change. And that's the seed that's planted. We have no idea the impact. And you have no idea of the impact that you're making on lives, on legacies. You can ask the question here, what would you like the legacy of MBK Cares to be, or the Fathering Circle to be? And you can say what you want, but you have no idea what it's going to be. You have, but what it will be is a wonderful ripple of healing and wholeness.
Thank you. And we believe that too. Thank you for acknowledging it.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. I figured on that note, we could wrap up.
Right on time.
If we got more, there's more to talk about. We want some more to talk about.
I mean, we could talk more, but I know that our time is a little bit limited, and I don't want to claim too much of Ihsan's time because you work hard, you need some rest. But I just want to say, I wish, first of all, thank you, Ihsan, for having me here, in this dynamic, because I'm just thinking about, I saw Lamar in the comments. So Lamar, I would love for Lamar to be able to join us in these kind of conversations, because Lamar Dixon is also a board member of MBK Cares, right? So another man that's on MBK Cares board. Alana and Kirsten, who are board members of MBK Cares and really have contributed, and actually were around before I ever showed up, just knowing that they were there consistently to assist with, making sure that the library events were going off, without a hitch. There's so many people that, like you said, this idea of legacy, it really does grow exponentially. So it really does grow exponentially when we touch people's lives. So I just wanted to say I'm grateful for Ihsan making the space and thanking me and welcoming me here, and for having the brilliance to invite you to be our moderator and to contribute on several episodes of our Wellness Wednesday. So thank you for that as well.
And thank you for the privilege, guys. This is awesome. I love these conversations,
Wait till the next time they see you.
What you say, Ihsan?
I said, wait till the next time they see you on here. It's gonna be some breaking news. Watch. I'm speaking that this too.
Uh-oh. He said, look, she tell me now.
Yeah. We're trying to recruit you on the air. Facebook Live. We're trying to recruit her. I want to share something I wrote this morning. I had a moment, I work overnight, and I had a moment where I was on my lunch break and I just started walking around and I wrote something. I just want to share it real quick. All right. Now, it was a moment where I was realizing how tired I am from just working and working and working, right? And I'm grateful to have a job. I know a lot of people are in circumstances where they would love to be able to have more opportunities to provide. I'm grateful for a job, but I realized that trying to make ends meet, sometimes you can lose focus on the fact that the most important thing you have is your health and your life, right? So I was reading. I'm sorry, I was working, and then this came to me. That moment when it hits you plainly, money doesn't really matter as much as it seems. We have everything that we need to live. Rest, good health, and inner peace are true blessings. This very moment of life is a true gift. Every breath matters. God is love. The people of God, including me, or better yet, especially me, don't always get it right when it comes to loving others. Forgiveness is a gift, a great gift to receive and to give to others. Healing is a process, a unique process that often leaves beautiful scars to serve as birthmarks and reminders of God's faithfulness. Messages in a bottle that will reach the shores of our future experiences. So now, instead of being afraid of drowning in the wild waves, we can walk on water. Water walking with the living water by our side. Jesus Christ lived, died, and rose so that we can have a peaceful relationship with our Father God. That's just what I wanted to share this morning. The healing that we want and we all want to experience, every single person wants to experience change, because the changes that happen, they either traumatize us or they comfort us in a way. If you're heartbroken and you meet some loving person, that's a change that comforts you. If you've been heartbroken and you actually never heal from it, you meet a loving person, you reject it, it's still something that's coming from the things that have happened to you. All of us want change. We either want things to stay the same because we're afraid of change, or we just want things to change only in positive ways. Change is coming. Even the peace right now that we're experiencing, change is coming. I might not be here today or tomorrow. Who knows? None of us know, right? Change is inevitable, but life is a gift. So that's all I wanted to share with that message. There's so many things about the organization we didn't get a chance to share, and that's okay because we're not going anywhere. And over time, things are going to be revealed and unveiled. We have like so many programs and ideas that time is just going to reveal, and I'm grateful. I ask that people pray for us because although we haven't set ourselves up as a ministry, we are a ministry because we're doing the work that God has put us here for. I ask that people support Brother Eric and the Father Circle as he moves into a space of becoming an official 501c3. I hope that people can provide us with some manpower. We need more manpower. We need volunteers. We need the community to be active in this. This is not us to sit here and monopolize or do anything. We want people involved in everything that we're doing. And we appreciate those of you who have been involved. Your voice matters, your presence matters, your prayers matter, your lives matter. Y'all matter to us. And you are the reason why we do what we do. There's many reasons why we continue this work, but you are a primary reason to see healing, to experience it for ourselves, and to see it and experience the joy of watching other people heal and live. So thank you all. I would like to thank Kirsten Britt, Alana Joyner, of Lamar Dixon, and Eric Marsh. And I'm the other board member of MBKCares. We appreciate you all. And we're expanding. Ty, you're gonna be something official with us one day. We said it.
How can you tell me what I'm going to do? People out here in the world,
Yes.
we haven't even talked. I don't even know what they talking about, y'all. I have no idea.
Yeah, just like the people from Canada. People from Canada told me. So, yeah. Thank you, Toronto.
Hey.
Any closing words, Eric, before we close out of here?
Yeah, my closing words are, first of all, thank you, Ty, for just being a beautiful spirit and having a beautiful mind, right? To be able to dig into and create some of the questions that you have, because we didn't even get to all the questions. And I think just some of the depth, like the emotional and spiritual depth of some of the questions, I think just shows your brilliance. So thank you for making that space for us. I also want to say, I actually can't wait till we get back to more of the conversations like when we originally started with Black men. Like, we actually were concerned at one point because we had too many men on at one time. Like, we were running like 8, 9, 10 people like having a conversation. But so when you talk about having like real open conversation and dialogue, like when you start maxing out Zoom to that extent, you got a whole screen full of people. But I say that to say, like, brothers, like if it's anybody's out there watching that wants to be part of the conversation, or that feels the need for community, or wants to be heard, or just wants to share, like, please, like, feel free to reach out. And like, because it's all about our wellness. And I also want to say, one of the last things I want to say is, most of this conversation that we've been talking about Black men and fathers, and I do not want to disregard or downplay the role that women have in our lives and in this organization. I really feel like we have to have this conversation about Black men, because there is such a concerted effort sustained over generations to undermine and to destroy Black men, even within our own selves. Like, there's this conflict. You got me on another soapbox, but I'm just saying, like, we need to understand that, this whole conversation that we're having about police brutality and police murder of Black lives, and next to it, this idea of Black on Black crime, like, they are interconnected, right? And so we have to understand that because a Black man may murder a Black man, or a Black person may kill another Black person or harm another Black person, does not mean that Black lives don't matter. And it's also, when we say Black lives matter, doesn't mean that it's connected to the social justice or political organization that's called Black Lives Matter. Like, we can hold these separate things all at the same time. Yep. We need to have these conversations and, like, get down to the heart of this, because yes, we can talk about, I started to go there and talk about Cardi B and WAP and all this other stuff and expression and all of that, but that's a whole nother show. Don't get me started. I just want to say thank y'all. And, like, this is really about community healing. And this is really for everyone. We're not trying to exclude anybody, any race, any gender, any identity. None of that is being excluded. We just have a particular point of focus and an avenue that we want to get into the conversation. And if it touches other people's lives who identify differently, then so be it. And God, to God be the glory. We're just that much more fortunate. So thank you.
Thank you. Ty, I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
So you're a relationship expert. Relationship therapist, and you're also seeking more credentials, right? I want to ask you right now to speak to the public right now. Just speak your heart for like 2 minutes.
Yeah. Yep. That's what you're going to do. Okay.
I know something good is going to come out, and I want to give you that.
Put you on the box. Put you on the spotlight. You got 2 minutes. Go.
Smile, people, right? Without a selfie. Literally, throughout your life, there are moments that you go through where you feel weighed down, and you're trying to figure out, how do I get up out of this? Sometimes you just got to remember the good times that you've come through. Areas of praise, areas of thankfulness, moments when you didn't think you were going to get past that time, that hardship, what that person did to you, what those people did to you, what that person said to you, the mistake that you made, and you did, and you're still living, right? You didn't die, but you are living, you are here. So remembering that, and smile, right? Smiling is free. It's free, and it's much less expensive than therapy. Does some good things for the face and the countenance, and it's wonderfully contagious. Wonderfully contagious, because seeing one person smile can make the other person, what they smiling about? What they over here smiling about? And ask yourself, why aren't you? What don't you have to smile about? By the very what? I don't know how many months we've been dealing with the Rona, right? We've been dealing with the Rona for more months than they say we've been dealing with the Rona.
Yep.
But I'm not gonna go there. So for these months that we've been dealing with quarantine, many people trying to figure out if life, what will life look like after this, much loss, much, much, much fear. What we need is to remember that if you're able to hear this, you're still standing, you're still living, you can see, you can hear, you can smell, you can breathe, you can think. By the grace and the glory of God, you are still here. So you got something to praise about. You got something to be thankful about. And find that, pull on that, stretch it as much as it can be stretched, and let it cover up some of the mess that don't need to be prominent in your purview. That's what I got. You put me fully on the spot and asked me just to speak, Ihsan.
And
Like,
look what happened. And look what happened.
Look what happened.
but that actually was like, it was something right here, right? It was something I can't point on the inside of my brain, but it was something that was right there, because I was thinking about how a lot of times, honestly, when we're feeling down and we're feeling depressed, when we're feeling weighed down and anxious, it's hard to see. It's hard to see the good stuff.
Yeah.
It's very hard. Hard is an understatement.
Yes.
What I work with my clients doing, it's a tremendous understatement, right? What I work with my clients to do is to expand their perspective. I'm not saying that the hardship isn't there. The hardship is there. I'm not saying that the hurt isn't there. It's there. But is there anything else that we can add to the perspective? As opposed to seeing this one thing here, let's look at the whole frame. So now this doesn't seem like it is the full extent of your life. For as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That's what the word says. In cognitive behavior therapy, it needs to give a little bit, credit to the word of God. But our thoughts affect our feelings, which affect what we do. And so the way that we think, if it's just this hardship, this fear, this pain, this betrayal, this rejection, and we can't see the rest of our picture, it's hard for us to have hope. So expand your perspective.
Love that. Thank you, Ty. And thank you all, anybody out there who's listening to this live. If anyone is going to consume this on a recorded version on YouTube or on Facebook or on a podcast, thank you for your time. Thank you for your attention. I hope that you heard something tonight that encourages you to think different, to live different, to behave different, to forgive differently, to love differently, and to just hope. This was beautiful. We'll be back again next week. There's another part of the legacy.
Another Marsh.
Yeah. So thank you all. Thank you for your faithful support. I want to say one final thank you to Ed DeAngelis from EDA Contractors. They were very, very gracious to us, and they've given some support, and they've offered to partner with us in a way that we're very humbled by. So thank you for that support. Thank you for all the different community organizations, the Free Library, Yeah, Philadelphia, anyone out there who wants to partner. We're all on the same mission: to build, to hope, to create, inspire hope. So thank you for the opportunities for this platform to speak to you. We'll see you next Wednesday, August the 19th. Same bat channel, same bat time, 6 o'clock at night till 7:30. MBKCares, we're here for you. Have a peaceful night, and God bless.
All right, God bless.
God bless.